Welcome back to HQ Spotlight. The number 1 overall pick, Cam Ward, is expected to start in the final preseason game when the Titans take on the Vikings Friday night on CBS. Ward is still trying to find a receiver in the end zone for the first time, but he has protected the football, so good news there. Ahead of Friday's game, the young quarterback talked about the importance of finding rhythm and consistency in the offense.
It's real important in terms of us just playing at a high level and making drives count, whether it's with 6 or 3 points. And then just also getting guys excited to play football, having excitement on the sideline, getting the guys their touches on the field, then at the end of the day, it's playing together. I think a lot of points can come from teams playing together, not playing selfish football. And, I'm just glad that we have one of those teams who play together.
Business as usual for Cam Ward as he gets ready for that final preseason game. Our Charles Davis will have the best seat in the house for this one. He will be on the call as he joins us now alongside our GM, Ran Carthan. Titans, Vikings, CBS, 8 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. Guys, it's the final chance for these starters to get some real time before the real deal. Charles, open the notebook for us here on the Spotlight when it comes to just your expectations for that first unit. We'll start with the Titans. First unit for the Titans.
Yeah, first unit for the Titans, and Rand knows these guys quite well. Brian Callahan, who he hired as the head coach of the Titans, he looked at last year's team, 3-14, and went into this year and said, I've got a lot of youngsters. Been a churn of the roster, so these guys need to play, all right? And so worry about, injury and this, that, and everything. But the starters have played in every preseason game, and Friday night will be no different. They'll probably get 2 series, maybe even up to a quarter, depending on how long the series go. And as Cam Ward articulated, what they're looking for is flow from this offense. They want to be able to start fast, which everyone talks about, but the Titans have been really, really slow. Both joint practices, they were dominated early before they got going. They were slow out of the gate in their 2 preseason games. They want to go fast, and they want to have a good flow and make sure that offense looks good as they get ready for Denver.
Yeah, and for this offense, you can't ask for a better defense to go up against than a Brian Flores defense who gives you a ton of different looks. He's one of the more complicated defenses to go up against. And for a young quarterback, this is a great tune-up heading into week 1 because it won't get much more difficult than going against Brian Flores and all the variety of looks he's going to give you up front.
Certainly will be interesting. I think Cam Ward, as you look at the numbers, small sample size, but the mentality has been the most impressive part of the young rookie taking over. Let's talk about a position battle to watch when it comes to the Titans because there are improvements to be made all across the field, Rand, but you're keying in on the defense here as a position to watch tomorrow. So why does the inside linebacker position intrigue you in Tennessee?
It intrigues me because they got to find a starter opposite of Cody Barton. Cody Barton was a guy that they signed in free agency, and they had 2 young guys from last year's draft class, 7th-round pick James Williams, who was a converted safety in there, as well as Cedric Gray, who was a 4th-round pick. And so those 2 guys in particular are really battling their different styles. Cedric Gray is more of a banger of middle linebacker, 1st and 2nd down. He's functional on 3rd down. And like I said, James Williams is coming off of being a safety in college. First year at linebacker was last year with the Titans. And so this guy's more athletic. He's a guy that when he's in there, he can make splash plays as long as he's comfortable. And if you know anything about their linebacker coach, Frank Bush, this is the type of guy Frank Bush loves to have, a piece of clay that he can mold and bring along as a linebacker.
They say defense wins championships for a reason. Got to tidy that side of the ball up. Of course, it's been a really good preseason on the other side of this matchup for J.J. McCarthy. Just seeing him happy, healthy, ready to go as he gets reacclimated to life as QB1. The team has gone through it, though, recently, Charles, with their wide receiver availability, but they can't make excuses. We know how tough that division is going to be. So we know J.J. McCarthy's not going to play tonight, Charles, but just talk us through his approach to the game on Friday, I should say. I keep saying tonight, but on Friday when J.J. McCarthy plays, what's the approach? What's it been for him this preseason?
Yeah, and you already said it, Haley. He's not going to go on Friday night. They're going to use the other quarterbacks on the roster. And that may seem odd to people considering he didn't play last year. But let's go back to his injury last year, the first preseason game against the Las Vegas Raiders, where he played pretty well. Fast forward to this year, their first preseason game against Houston, he played pretty well in that one, and they decided to shut him down for the rest of preseason in terms of game action. Why? In part because of what he did all of the last offseason after his injury. Rehabbed, of course, like mad. But during that rehab process, they put him through the paces as if he were a starting quarterback. Film watching, quizzes on everything, game planning. What do you like this week's game plan? What don't you like? And then when he was able to get healthy, start putting him through his paces on the field. And that continued all during the offseason, OTAs and minicamp, all the way through now. So yes, his experience on the field is limited because of the injury last year, but they treated him like, hey, we're going to make you the starting quarterback. You're going to be that guy. Let's go ahead and start getting you ready as soon as the injury occurred last year. Plus, as Rand knows, that keeps you integrated into the team. You're not separate from everything all the time now. You're still around, in the meetings, around the team, getting your rehab, doing all the other stuff. That's their way of getting him trained. Now, of course, he has to go out on the field and prove it, starting with their season opener, and that's going to be a great one to watch.
Yeah, absolutely, Charles. And you hit a lot of great points, but I want to really drive home the point of, by tenure and lack of playing time, J.J. McCarthy is very much a rookie. He and Cam Ward are essentially on the same page in terms of being first-time starters in the National Football League in Week 1. However, to Charles' point, he was in the building all of last year, and as he was rehabbing the injury, he got a chance to learn and take the mental reps, but then also be under a guy like Sam Darnold and see what it took to prepare for an NFL game on a week-to-week basis. And so now he has that in his back pocket that's going to help him as he goes into this regular season. And who better to have to coach him than KOC as his head coach? I think JJ will essentially be their sixth starting quarterback that KOC has had since he's been a head coach. And I think this guy is the guy that they targeted in the draft. I think they moved up to get him, and he's the guy that they plan on having for the future. It's
a good opportunity for J.J. McCarthy to really establish his career this year, but also a good opportunity for some pass catchers in this game on Friday. I mentioned Justin Jefferson dealing with injury as he works back from a hamstring strain. Jordan Addison's going to miss some time with a suspension. So, Charles, when you look at the game coming up on Friday, you look at the wide receiver room here on your screen, what opportunities does this leave for the Vikings wide receivers to sort of fill in those gaps that we're seeing right now with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison?
Massive gap, because Addison's going to miss the first 3 games of the season, so someone has to have that roster spot to begin with. And what those guys who are pictured on the screen right now need to do, they need to go out and prove themselves so that Minnesota doesn't go shopping at the waiver wire. Kwesi Adolfo-Mensa, their GM, is looking at the league as a whole, because Lucky Jackson, they're counting on. He's had a few drops in preseason. Tim Jones has played well along the way. Miles Price is a guy they like in the kick return game. And, of course, they drafted Ty Felton out of Maryland in the 3rd round. They're trying to force feed him as a kick returner as well and a punt returner, something he didn't do much of in college. But I love his ability when he gets his hands on the ball after the catch. Can those guys step forward and mitigate what's going on? Jefferson will be there for the opener, come back from the hamstring. Addison's going to miss the first 3. Who's going to jump into that void? Because remember, last year, 3 wide receivers for the Minnesota Vikings all scored 6 or more touchdowns. They don't mind spreading it around, despite the fact that Justin Jefferson will get the lion's share of the targets.
Maybe take a page from the Baltimore Ravens. Everybody eats in Baltimore, and that's going to be the reality early on for Minnesota. It is an 8 p.m. Eastern kick on CBS Friday. Ran, it's the final preseason game as well. So on both sides of this matchup here, who's caught your attention? Who are you watching?
Well, let's start with the Titans because we hit them first, and I'm going with Cedric Gray. He's led the team in tackles this preseason. I think he has 14 tackles combined in both preseason games. But this has been huge for Cedric Gray. He was a guy that had promise last year, dealt with an injury in the beginning, but just struggled to find his way on the field. And now you can see his maturation, and he's taking advantage of his opportunity. So he's going to have to come into this game and play well to keep James Williams out of the lineup. But he has stepped up, and he has played really well this preseason. So I wanted to highlight him. And for the Vikings, I'm going to go with Gabe Murphy, a young pass rusher. He's a little bit undersized, but he's really athletic. He's explosive. He sets physical and aggressive edges, which in a Brian Flores defense you have to do. And so this is a young guy. He had a sack and a half in his first preseason game. This is a young guy that is staking his claim that's going to earn a spot on his football team and give them yet another edge rusher to get after the quarterback in that pass-happy NFC North.
You can never have too many pass rushers. Ran Carthan, Charles Davis joining us here to break it all down. Guys, appreciate the time and the insight. The NFL quickly returning, one final stop before we get to that Week 1 matchup. And the final matchup here on CBS, Vikings and Titans, Friday, 8 o'clock Eastern. Of course, you can stream the action as well on Paramount+.